welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 431 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, normally I ask who agrees with me. I'm asking you to hear me out. I think the point has been missed. I think the point of it all has been missed. The biggest topic pretty much this week and the weekend has been Cailtin Clark being left off Team USA's roster. And you're hearing a bunch of different opinions, and everyone's opinion is valid. And everyone's opinion obviously is different. And one of the main points I've heard is this is a missed opportunity for Team USA not having Cailtin Clark, who essentially is their most popular athlete at this point, not having her on the Team USA roster. Let me first start by saying I understand both points, and I see truths in both points. I agree with the sense that if the goal is trying to advance the game, if the goal is trying to grow popularity, if the goal is to try to get as many eyes as possible on the Olympics, on Team USA, then yes, I think this was a missed opportunity for Team USA to have Cailtin Clark on the roster. You see, I think where Team USA went wrong and what they messed up with is that statement, pretty much saying that they were fearful that their fans or her fans would grow loud because she wouldn't get much playing time. When usually younger players, typically college players, because usually for Team USA, I'm not 100% sure about the women's side, but the men's side, at least one rookie or a college player is usually on the roster, or was usually on the roster, and they didn't get much playing time. I mean, I remember back in 2012, Anthony Davis was on the roster, and while he played, he didn't play that much because he wasn't getting many minutes over Dwight Howard, over Tyson Chandler. It just wasn't happening. So she would not get a lot of minutes on this Team USA team, and they felt that the fans' outcry would be loud. And while I agree with that, I do also understand that, well, while the fans' outcry would be loud, you'd still have those fans watching. And if the goal is to advance the game, and if the goal is to draw as many fans as possible, then to me, whether they're watching or not, whether they're complaining about her not playing or playing, they are there. You have those fans. So in that sense, I understand. And in that sense, I agree with the people saying this was a missed opportunity to grow. But I also understand the other side of it. I also understand the people saying, well, Team USA's goal is not to grow, it's to dominate. It's to go and win a gold medal. Listen to this team. Afisa Collier, Kalia Copper, Chelsea Gray, Brittany Griner, Sabrina Nadescu, Jewel Lloyd, Kelsey Plum, Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, Alyssa Thomas, Asia Wilson, and Jackie Young. Every single one of those ladies deserves to be on this list. The only one that you can argue right now is Chelsea Gray because she hasn't played due to injury. But outside of that, every single one of these ladies deserves to be on this list. Every single one of these ladies are considered top rank in the WNBA. And While yes, I understand that there was a time when Team USA prioritized, and that's both men and women, they prioritize growing the basketball landscape more than the championship, more than the gold medal. I don't think they're at this point. Now, obviously, the men's are more popular than the women's. That's just how it is. But the goal, I think that's what I think is being lost. I think what's being lost is the goal. The goal for this Team USA team is to win gold. And outside of Chelsea Gray, because again, she hasn't played due to injury, there's not one person on this list. If you look at, even though she has had an up and down season as a rookie, if you look at every single player on this list, Cailtin Clark is not better than any of them. At least right now. I'm not saying that years from now she won't be. I'm talking about right now. So to me, you can't justify taking somebody off this list and adding her if there's people on this list that are better. In fact, everyone on this list is better. Now, again, I understand both points, because if the main goal was to advance the game, then the key word in that is main goal. And what I mean by that is the goal is always to advance. I'm not naive in saying that Team USA doesn't care about advancing the NBA or the WNBA. You know that to be fact by the people that they choose. They don't choose, just a bunch of up and coming players. They don't choose just a bunch of, second, or if they have an option to get the top players, they're going to get them, because not only do they want to win a gold medal, but they want to showcase the talent. So I'm not saying that Team USA's only goal is to win gold. I understand that there is a level of importance and there's a level of focus on trying to elevate the sport. So I'm not going to say that it's an and or, I'm not going to say that they don't care about elevating. That's not what I'm saying. The main point is what I'm saying is the main goal is not to elevate the game. The main goal is to win gold, which in turn will elevate the game. And I say that because if the main goal was to elevate the sport, then yes, Cailtin Clark should probably be on it. Honestly, Cailtin Clark should be on it. Maybe Cameron Brink should be on it. Angel Reese should be on it. There are cases that some of the young stars, those three young stars should be on this list because they are the most popular players in the WNBA right now. At least popular younger players. But we have to keep the main goal. And for Team USA, when you look at this fabulous roster, the main goal is to win a gold medal. And this roster is the best women in the WNBA at this point. And right now, Cailtin Clark is not that. I don't think it's an indictment on Cailtin Clark. I don't think they're doing it in spite of Cailtin Clark. I don't think that they're doing it to get back at Cailtin. I think I think they understand what the main goal is. For instance, the NBA is doing it as well. If the main goal was to elevate the NBA, then why not have the most popular players on the roster? Don't get me wrong. They have Steph Curry. They have Kevin Durant. They have LeBron James. But why not have the most popular players? Like the most popular Americans. Like why? There's a reason why Ja Morant's not on the roster. While he's probably one of the most popular, there's a reason why LaMelo Ball is not on the roster. One of the most popular players in the NBA. Because the main goal is to go win gold. I think Cailtin Clark has had a rookie year. She's had some incredible games. She's had some god-awful games. And I think at this point, the Fever are 2 or 3, only have 2 or 3 wins. But I am bringing credence to both sides. And I'm not saying that anyone is wrong. But I think if we understood what the point was, which is to win gold. That's the main point, not the only, the main. This roster is the best roster that the WNBA has. And if the main goal is to advance the game, then I understand. And I agree with people saying that this is a missed opportunity. It's very hard for me to look at this roster. See, I mean, this roster has arguably 3 of the greatest basketball or WNBA players we've ever seen. Obviously, Asia Wilson and Breonna Stewart's careers are not done. Neither is Diana Taurasi. But you can argue when it's all said and done, all 3 of them can be considered in the GOAT conversation. There's no one I would take off this list for Cailtin Clark right now if the main goal is to win a championship or win a gold medal. And honestly, this isn't the last Olympics. I understand that nobody likes to wait, you know. And I understand that there are people that don't feel like they should have to wait. I get it. But again, Cailtin Clark, I wouldn't put over anyone on this list as far as game goes. So, shouts out to her. I still think that she's an incredible player, and she's having a rookie year for the WNBA. And shouts out to all the women that did make the roster for Team USA. Well deserved. And again, the roster that they've constructed is very hard for me not to see them win gold. So we'll see. Speaking of we'll see. I will never say that I am the best at negotiating. I'm not a salesman. That's why people get paid to do stuff like negotiate, because that is what they're able to do. That's what they're good at. So no, I will never say that I am the best at negotiating. But what I do know is there are some principles that are pretty uniformal when talking about negotiating. And these normal practices in negotiations should be standard, you know? Well, we talked about this last episode, and one of the biggest stories that was out was the Lakers was pursuing Dan Hurley, and they tried to pry him away from UConn. All the reports that we were hearing is they're offering him, and they're working on a long-term deal, a very lucrative deal. One of the highest paid coaches in the NBA. It's going to take a lot for them to pry him away from the dynasty that he's trying to build in UConn. That's all we heard. And then we heard that Dan Hurley was going to make a decision soon. And I think the very next day, he turned. Not only did we find out that he turned down the offer, we found out what the offer is. I think the offer was like 6 years, $70 million. And to put that into perspective, while yes, that was more money than I guess he was offered, or I guess the contract that he has for UConn. That is more money, but it's not that much more. It's not significantly more. And on top of that, I think Kentucky offered him more. And he still turned down that job to remain at UConn. So what I'm saying is, in the world of negotiating, I would think that there are things that are uniform, and there are things that should always happen to help you in your case. Let me put on my LA Lakers hat. And let me tell you how I would start. Now, again, this is a caveat saying I'm not the best negotiator, but there are just some things that I think should always be standard. If I'm going to the negotiating table and there is somebody that I'm trying to pry from somewhere else, if there's a candidate that I know I want, I think the first thing I'm going to do is look at the market. Not just the market that I'm in, but the market that they're in. Meaning, I'm going to look at the head coaching market in college, and I'm also going to look at the head coaching market in the NBA and see it would be a disservice to him to go at market price. So I have to go a little bit above it. We talked about when Justin Jefferson got his contract. And I said, Justin Jefferson should not be the uniform market because he's the best player. Coming back to this, Dan Hurley is, in all intents and purposes, the best coach in college right now. So it would be a disservice to him to take the market. So I am going to offer him over the market in college. Then I'm going to look at the NBA. Do I think Dan Hurley deserves to be the highest paid coach in the NBA? No. But if you're trying to get someone to come in, I would at least make him close to that. I don't think he deserves it, and I don't think he thinks he deserves it. But there's a difference between being the second or third highest paid coach or the fifth and sixth highest paid coach. What's so baffling to me is I just feel like when you hear the offer that was turned down, anyone in their mama that didn't need the offer, anyone in their mama that knew Dan Hurley, that knew the contract that he was offered other places, and that knew the contract that he essentially took, that should tell you another thing. If you are offered something and someone else is offering you more and you take the lesser offer, that means that the money probably isn't the most important thing to you. What's fascinating to me is just how much of a misstep the Lakers took at every single point. Obviously, Dan Hurley doesn't care much about the money, but if you're going to offer him money, you have to offer him enough to make him, at least in this point, uncomfortable enough to leave. And what I say uncomfortable is it's uncomfortable turning down life-changing money. I'll be real with you. So you have to make it to the point where it's sweet enough that you're going to pry him away, especially when you see that there is other colleges that has offered more than what you offered him. And he didn't even take those jobs. So I just don't understand. And another thing that is puzzling to me about this whole situation is I think that there was a level of pride that the Lakers had in this offer. I think there was a level of we're the Lakers, so how can you say no to us? Because that was a low ball offer in all intensive purposes. Mind you, I don't know, obviously, Dan Hurley. I don't know anyone in the Lakers front office, but I don't think Dan Hurley was just up and begging for a job. In my estimation, they probably went to him and said, "Hey, how would you like to be the head coach of the LA Lakers?" So you called me. You called me and then lowballed me. There was a level of arrogance, I believe, that backfired for the Lakers. And the way that they were moving showed there was a level of arrogance. The fact of leading up to the Dan Hurley announcement, all we were hearing about was JJ Redick. And it's no coincidence that we heard about Dan Hurley in the beginning of the NBA Finals. Like, I think the day of Game 1 of the NBA Finals that has the Boston Celtics in it, that no one's thinking about the Lakers, we hear about the Dan Hurley contract. Or the Dan Hurley is in the running. And then we hear that Dan Hurley will be making a decision tomorrow or the next day. That right there told me, oh, no, he ain't leaving. No. Because why? No, he's not leaving. I think there has to be a level of honesty with the Lakers right now. As I get it, when you look at the money metric, when you look at the way that the league is, promoting, and when you look at revenue, then yes, the Lakers, they're the marquee franchise of the NBA. They are the most popular brand in the NBA. Get it? But the Lakers have not been considered championship contenders for a while. And honestly, I will go as far as saying if it wasn't for the stoppage because of COVID, I don't think they would have won in 2020. I think the stoppage helped them tremendously, seeing as though they were one of, if not the oldest team in the NBA. You had LeBron James, you had Anthony Davis. I think the league stopped for like 5-6 months, so that's just rest right there. And on top of that, when you go into the bubble, there's no travel, so the travel isn't on your body. There's no distractions, and distractions really hurt younger players. I think that if there was any team that COVID and the NBA stoppage helped more than anyone, it was the NBA. It was the Lakers. But outside of that, the Lakers have not been considered a championship caliber team in a while. And that's even after last year making it to the Western Conference Finals. Even if they would have made it to the championship, I think the Boston Celtics would have got them out of there quick. I think the Boston Celtics would have got them out of there if they would have played. I think the Heat might have got them out of there quick if they would have played. I'm thinking back to the Milwaukee Bucks in 2021 would have got them out of there. Like, I think the Lakers have to be real. Yes, revenue-wise, they are the marquee franchise. But if we're talking about appeal, there's not much appeal outside of just the Lakers name for this coaching job. And on top of that, now you probably lost J.J. Redick, because I think a report came out saying that J.J. Redick doesn't want to be considered a second option. And J.J. Redick doesn't want to participate in the circus that is the Lakers. Yo, I said this last episode. I did not mince words. I knew exactly what I said when I said that the Lakers' job isn't as appealing as you think it is. The only appealing thing about it is you're coaching LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And I think LeBron James has 2, maybe 3 years left. Not saying he's breaking down, but he's already said he's not long for the NBA for much longer. And Anthony Davis is great when he's playing and when he's when he's active. He is arguably one of the best players in the league. But he's also proven that he can be the best player on the team and your team not be a championship caliber team. So what I'm saying is, let's be honest about this Lakers team. This Lakers team should be in no position to lowball a candidate, especially a candidate that wasn't even thinking about y'all. That's the irony and the funny part of this whole situation. You came to me and I was at home chilling with my 2 national championships, back-to-back national championships of that. What are we doing here? Why are you disrupting my sleep for this? And then you have the nerve to lowball me and think that I'm just going to take it because you're the Lakers. You have a storied franchise. Well, you kind of like the Boston Celtics, which we're going to talk about in a second. There hasn't been much success as far as winning championships in recent history outside of 2020. So I just feel like there are things that should be normal in negotiations. And I don't know if it was because of arrogance. I don't know if it was because of pride. I don't know what it was, but it just seemed like the Lakers did not do their best. And they shot themselves in the foot. And honestly, there's either one of two things. They never really wanted him, or they just didn't understand their footing in the league right now. Because I don't understand why you would lowball a coach that you wanted. And then on top of that, you make a big spectacle of it, announcing it before game 1 of the NBA Finals, seeing as though that you're the Lakers, that everyone's going to talk about it. And shouts out to Dan Hurley, man. I said this last episode, this was the best position. The UConn, in my opinion, is a better coaching job for him than the Lakers. There's a lot of pros coming to the NBA, and there's a lot of cons coming to the NBA as a head coach from college. And I think Dan Hurley is in the perfect position for him. So I don't know who's next for the Lakers. I don't know who's going to get it. But I think I'm at a point where I don't think any coach is going to make them a championship caliber team. Now, if they go out and get a star, like if they go out and get maybe a Trae Young, if they go out and get maybe Donovan Mitchell, and that changes things. But who knows? What we do know is Dan Hurley ain't going to be their coach. That's another thing, bro. You lowball a coach that already has a deal. So what you're essentially trying to do is pry him out of a deal he just signed, meaning he wants to be there. And Man, it doesn't make sense to me. But hey, I guess it was a win-win for Dan Hurley and a lose-lose for the Lakers. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of, let's talk about the NBA Finals for a second. And I'm also going to talk about the Stanley Cup Final in a second, but I'm going to start with the NBA Final. One of the reasons why we say that it's so important for stars to shine in moments like the NBA Finals is because it's harder for role players. In fact, for a lot of players, moments like this is what makes them stars. A really good player for this is Jimmy Butler. Not saying that he's won a championship. Obviously, he hasn't. But one of the biggest things that we say about Jimmy Butler is the reason why he's considered a star is because of his play in the playoffs and how he elevates his game in the playoffs. Your stars, especially when you're a team that relies so heavily on your stars to be stars, they have to come to play. And what we're seeing from the NBA Finals is why not only the Boston Celtics made it here, but why a lot of people, including myself, have them winning the finals. Let's talk about wiggle room for a second. Because that's a term that I say a lot. That's a term that a lot of people say a lot is wiggle room. And what do I mean? What does it mean when I say the Boston Celtics or the Dallas Mavericks have different forms of wiggle room, right? Wiggle room is the mistakes. The wiggle room is how many mistakes can you make before it becomes detrimental for your team? And for teams that are stacked, for teams that are just better, they have more of a wiggle room. They can make more mistakes, and those mistakes won't hurt them as much as it would hurt a team that maybe isn't as talented or maybe doesn't have as much stars. Going into the series, I said that the Boston Celtics have much more wiggle room than the Dallas Mavericks. As much as I'm not a fan of Boston, as much as it feels like all the NBA fandom wants the Boston Celtics to lose, they are the better team. Coming into the finals, they were the better team. In fact, I was thinking and listening to a lot of people's predictions. And I was listening to a lot of people that said Dallas was going to win. I was listening to why they said Dallas was going to win. And it was pretty universal. Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. They usually said that Boston's a better team. They usually said that Boston has more wiggle room to mess up before it starts to hurt them. But the reason why many people picked Dallas to win the championship is A, they don't like Boston, and B, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. And I agree to a sense that if Dallas was going to win this series, now obviously it's 2-0. Boston took care of business both times at home. But if they were going to win this series, and if Dallas is going to somehow win for the next, 5 games, it's going to have to be on the backs of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. And because of that, I think that is one of the biggest reasons why Dallas finds themselves in a hole. is because, and that reason is Kyrie Irving. Think about all the factors I just said. The fact that Boston is a better overall team. They have more wiggle room to make mistakes. On top of that, their role players are better. Like, as much as they overachieved against Minnesota, Drew Holiday is better than any role player that is on Boston or Dallas. Kristaps Porzingis is better than any role player that is on Dallas. Al Horford is better than a lot of players that are on Dallas or role players that's on Dallas. In fact, the only two players that is comparable to any player on the Boston team, well, on the Boston's core, is Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. So you factor all that in. I said going into this series, Kyrie Irving and Luka are going to have Herculean efforts to win this series. They could do it. We've seen both of them do it. But it's going to have to happen at a seismic level, because if not, they are getting bounced. I'm not blaming Kyrie fully for why Dallas is in an 0-2 hole at this point. But what I will say is, listening to everything I just said and knowing what we know about this series, you can't have one. You can have, if you're Boston, you can have Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum not play well, especially when you have 20-something points from Drew Holiday, especially when you have 21 points, I think, from Kristaps Porzingis game one. Boston has the players to overcome their stars not playing well. Jason Tatum didn't play well at all in game two. It didn't matter because Drew Holiday had the game of his life, at least in the NBA Finals. Dallas does not have that luxury. Dallas does not have that wiggle room. They need Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic to have great games. They're getting, even though he is shooting, well, game two he shot well, but he is shooting a little inefficient. You're getting the points from Luka. It's just Kyrie now. Kyrie has been awful. I don't think Kyrie Irving has hit a NBA Finals 3 yet. And I was watching the Draymond Green podcast, and he was talking to Kevon Looney, and Kevon Looney, I think, is the perfect person to have this conversation with because he is essentially a role player, and he even said he was a role player. And they were saying how Dallas can turn it around. Now, there were some things that they said that I don't agree with, and there were some things that I agree wholeheartedly. One of the things that they said was Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving have to get their role players going early. They have to get the P.J. Washingtons going. They have to get the Daniel Gaffords, the Derek Lively's. They have to get them going. Derek Jones, because it's very hard for role players to get it going in the third or fourth quarter when they haven't really done much in the first or second, because that's when those are the winning quarters. That's when, you know, things get a little tight. The pressure has risen. And a role player may not be able to adapt to the pressure as much, especially when they haven't really seen much going in the first two quarters. So I agree to a sense that is important. I think that is something that Dallas should definitely do. They need to get their role players incorporated more. But I do see when they pass it to their role players. Like I see when Luka is passing it to Max Kleber. I do see it when he's passing it to Derek Jones or P.J. Washington. They're not doing anything with it. And on top of that, not only are they not doing anything with it, they're either turning the ball over, they're either not hitting shots. So it's like, what are we doing? And then you have the Kyrie. That's when you're in a playoff series, man. There's things that you should worry about, and there's things that you shouldn't worry about. What I don't think Dallas anticipated worrying about was trying to get Kyrie back on his game. And that's exactly what they've been doing. They're trying. They're trying. And I think Kyrie, I don't think it's just any fault to him. It could be because of just the crowd. Maybe we'll get the Kyrie that we were waiting for in game 3, which is tonight. But maybe it was the Boston crowd. And I think it may have been the Boston crowd because we're seeing, Kyrie hasn't been the demonstrative going back and forth with the crowd. He hasn't been like that all season outside of game 2 mostly. Waving, telling the crowd, let's go, telling them I'll be back in 5, Maybe the crowd is getting to Kyrie a little bit, and they are getting ruthless. Like, they boo him mercilessly every single time he touches the ball. And I'm sure the racial slurs that are getting thrown around that arena is generational. Boston has more room to have bad games than Dallas. Boston is just the better team. The reason why I said Boston in 6 is because I think if both teams play their best, it's not close. I think Boston is the better team, even though I don't like Boston. I'm just being honest and subjective. But if Dallas keeps playing like they're playing, game 2, Boston had a terrible game. Nobody was really hitting threes. Their best player in game 2 was Drew Holiday. And no offense to Drew, but he's not their best player. Jason Tatum is their best player. Jaylen Brown is their second best player. If Kyrie Irving continues to play the way he's playing, if there's like a blame pie, I'll give him 75% of that pie. Because, again, in moments like this, just like he knows it, because I think he said it, you need your stars to play like stars, because if not, you're going to lose. And you can say, well, Jason Tatum hasn't really played well. Yeah, well, they have a better team. They have one of the best teams in playoff history. When you look at their percentages and you look at how they're winning. Bro, they won 60-something games in the regular season. They are a team. They're a juggernaut. People want to harken back to 2012 when Golden State beat them. And they're like, well, Klay Thompson didn't play too well and Draymond Green didn't play well. Yeah, well, you had a generational player in Steph Curry go off. And on top of that, you had someone that you didn't expect to elevate his game, and that is Andrew Wiggins. You also didn't expect Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole played pretty well. You're not outside of Luka. There has not been one Dallas Maverick that has played well. And on top, and people forget Luka is pretty much limping on one leg. Dallas needs Kyrie to wake up. Because if not, my Boston in 6 prediction might be drastically wrong. And what I mean by that is it might be Boston in 4. Because Boston is not the team where one player can beat them. Boston is not the team where one player can dictate their moves like it did for the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves really lost because Kyrie and Luka just went crazy. They need that Kyrie and Luka against this team to have any shot. And as we've seen in game 1 or 2, if they don't, even if they get one, because Luka has been playing well, if they get one and not the other, you just don't have a shot. Because think about it. Game 1, it was Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis. Game 2, it was Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown. Game 3, it could be Derek White. It could be Al Horford. It could be Jason Tatum finally wakes up and has one of those games. It could be Peyton Pritchard hit a end of quarter half court shot. Boston has that ability. Dallas does not. Another conversation that I want to talk about is the best player of Boston. People are obviously Jaylen Brown won the Eastern Conference Finals Player of the Year, and I think if you look at both games, if a star has to win has to win the MVP of the finals, Jaylen Brown has been more consistent than Jason Tatum. So, in my opinion, he'd probably be the front runner for Finals MVP. And that has obviously sparked the conversation. Who is Jaylen Brown their best player? Which obviously has been widely considered to be Jason Tatum. And I think that this is a comical conversation. It's a comical conversation because the people that are having this conversation knows what's real. And they know who the best. You know how you can tell who the best player is how the opponent guards them. To me, that is how you can tell for sure who the best player is. Now, you can have dumb situations and dumb game plans. I get that. Like, you can have a game plan of everyone just play one. Everyone just play man. We're good. Like, no. These are supreme athletes, bro. You're not gonna, especially if you're the best player, you're not about to beat me playing man. That's just not happening. But you can tell who the best player is by how Dallas is defending and how every team has defended Boston in this playoff run. And honestly, how every team pretty much defends Boston. This is no offense to Jaylen Brown. This is no offense to Jason Tatum. This is just the truth. When you see teams play Boston, every game, every series, every opponent is a game of chess. And there are for people that know chess, for people that play chess, you understand that there are pieces, there are times when you have to give up things to essentially meet your goal, which is essentially win a game of chess. There's never been anyone in the history of chess, unless you're just playing someone that's god awful, but there's really never been anyone in the history of chess that has not won the game of chess and not given up pieces. Whether giving up pawns, giving up rooks, you have to sacrifice pieces to essentially win the game. When you look at a team play Boston, you have to ask yourself, what are they willing to give up? And what are they not willing to give up? Well, every single team that plays Boston usually does the same thing. They double Jason Tatum. They double Jason Tatum because they know not only is he their best player, but he's the one that can wreak complete, total havoc on a team. From his shooting ability, from his driving ability, now from his passing ability, from his defensive ability. Jason Tatum can single-handedly win Boston a series. That's how good he is. And people know that, which is why you see most of his opponents double him. Meaning they're leaving Jaylen Brown on one-on-one. Or they're leaving Drew Holiday on one-on-one. Or they're leaving Kristaps Porzingis one-on-one. Jaylen Brown is an exceptional player. Jaylen Brown is an exceptional offensive weapon, which is what we've seen in these playoffs. And Jaylen Brown has this series and this playoff run, he has been their most important player, not because he's their best, but because how teams are defending Boston makes him the most important player. Because Jason Tatum has to beat double teams on a consistent basis. That's tough for anybody. So you're hoping you need Jaylen Brown to beat his one-on-one matchups. And seeing as though every single series he has had one-on-one matchups, while Jason Tatum has been doubled, that's why you're seeing such a crazy output, such a focus on Jaylen Brown's success, because he's doing what he's supposed to do. They need him to beat him, because let me say this: if Jaylen Brown does not win his one-on-one matchups, they have no shot, because your best player in Jason Tatum is already getting doubled. This is no offense to Jaylen Brown at all, but Jason Tatum is the best player by far on Boston. And if you want any type of proof, teams are willing to give up a scoring outburst, a scoring explosion from Jaylen Brown. Yo, you don't think it's crazy that every single time you see Jaylen Brown, pretty much they got Luka Doncic guarding him, and all those people saying, "Hey, yo, Luka Doncic is playing defense now." I was even saying he was playing defense. All that defensive stuff went out the window this series because he has been a cone. Because the teams are more focused on, we have to stop Jason. We cannot. If anybody can go off, it can't be Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown is a top tier talent in the league, but he's not Jason Tatum. And honestly, I don't think he needs to be Jason Tatum. He just needs to continue to beat his matchup, which he's been doing, which is why you're seeing Boston just run through the playoffs. Again, in conclusion, if Kyrie Irving doesn't wake up this series, I think this series is over in general, but it's for damn sure over if Kyrie Irving doesn't return to the Kyrie Irving that they saw against the Clippers, or the Kyrie Irving that they saw against OKC, or the Kyrie Irving that they saw against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Kyrie Irving that has won a championship with LeBron James, which, ironically enough, they came back from 3-1. I don't think that this team is coming back from 3-1, but if they don't, it's gonna be quick. This series is gonna be quick, fast, and in a hurry. And if you want to tell who the best player is in Boston, just watch how any team guards them. No offense to Jaylen Brown, but Jason Tatum is the best player. Speaking of best player, do you know how? So I said that in some instances, in some aspects, hockey is very similar to basketball, in a sense of you have an advantage when you have the best players. And what is kind of ironic and kind of funny is we're seeing sort of a parallel from the NBA Finals to the Stanley Cup Final. What we're seeing in both Stanley Cup Final and NBA Finals is virtually the same. You're seeing a team that arguably has the two best players struggle because they're losing to a team that is a better team. Now, I know, I came out and said that I thought I had Edmonton in 6. The same argument that people had in choosing Dallas is the argument I used for choosing Edmonton. I mean, Dallas Mavericks and Edmonton Oilers. Most people chose the Mavericks because they have Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. I chose the Oilers because they have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, the two best players in this series. Or at least going in, the two players that were supposed to be the best players in the series. Well, what we've seen so far in the Stanley Cup Stanley Cup final is, I said going into it, and what many people are saying is, Florida's just the better team. Florida has more wiggle room than the Oilers because they have better players. They have more good players than Edmonton. While Edmonton has the two best players, the Florida Panthers have a better team. Whether we talk about Sergei Bobrovsky, whether we talk about Matthew Tkachuk, whether we talk about Alexander Barkov, even though I hope Leon Draisaitl kind of knocked that man out. And we'll see what happens there. But they definitely need Barkov to win the series. They have Florida. What Florida is doing is, they coming into the Stanley Cup final, they have been one of the best third period scoring teams in the playoffs. And I think yesterday or the other night, they scored 3 goals in the third. And Sergei Bobrovsky has been incredible as the goalie. He has been the best player on the ice, and that is better than Connor McDavid. That's been better than Leon Draisaitl. Bobrovsky, in the way that he's been able to not let anything good past him. This entire series, or I know it's only 2 games, but Edmonton has 1 goal. A team that has the star power of Leon Draisaitl, or someone that is coming into the Stanley Cup final with 31 goals. That is Connor McDavid, I believe. This team has 1 goal, and that is because of the greatness of Sergei Bobrovsky. Kind of like I said with Kyrie and Luka and the NBA Finals. The only shot that the Edmonton Oilers have is if their best players play, or their 2 best players have to be the best players of the series. That's the only way that they can come back. Because you're playing against a team that is a better overall team. You just have the better players. And if Bobrovsky keeps going, if Barkov able to play, Evan Rodriguez had 2 goals in game 2. There is kind of like the Boston Celtics. The Florida Panthers have much more wiggle room because of just how deep their team is. The Edmonton Oilers do not have that luxury in the slightest. And I do think that if Alexander Barkov isn't 100% or if he can't play, that's going to affect a lot of things. But the Florida Panthers just have handbook of ways to win when the Edmonton Oilers really don't. Their goaltending isn't the best, and they rely heavily on scoring. Skinner has not been doing it for them at the goaltending position. They rely heavily on their star players and scoring. It's kind of like they play, for lack of a better term, or to give you a better example, the Edmonton Oilers kind of play like the Phoenix Suns. And how the Phoenix Suns were not really good. Actually, they weren't good at all defensively, but they could score with the best of them. Their hope was, with KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, they'll just outscore you. Well, that works until you play with a team that not only can score just like you can score, but can play defense better and a better team. Well, Edmonton is running into a better team, or they have met a better team. Dallas was probably the Dallas Stars, they were probably a better team, but they just kind of underachieved, I think. And I think you just had incredible goalie work that he was playing out of his mind. But if Edmonton do not, their best players, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, if they don't wake up, it's gonna be curtains. I saw. I think it was ESPN did it. I saw them comparing Connor McDavid to the 2007 LeBron James and 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers. They obviously went to the finals against a much better team in the San Antonio Spurs and got swept. And this is, obviously the comparison is Connor McDavid is the best player in the sport. LeBron James was arguably the best player in the sport. And he was on a team, and he essentially carried a team to the finals. And when they ran up against just a better team, a machine, they just got obliterated. That's kind of what we're seeing. The only difference is LeBron James did play pretty well in the finals. It was just no one else did. In this one, at least 2 games in, Connor McDavid has been a no-show. So if that continues, just like the NBA Finals, it's going to be quick. It's going to be quick. We as fans are going to be digesting a lot of baseball, a lot of baseball sooner than we think if the Edmonton Oilers and their best players don't wake up, and if Kyrie Irving doesn't wake up. We'll see. And there you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, or joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach as many subscribers as possible. I appreciate everyone that does subscribe, that will subscribe. If you like the content, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. It means a lot. I mean, if you get this far in the episode and you don't subscribe, I don't know what to tell you, man. Please subscribe. It means a lot. Also, I understand that I have 2 separate types of supporters. I have people that only watch on YouTube. I have people that only listen on DSPs. Obviously, I have people that do both. But for the people that only listen to DSPs, please follow, please subscribe, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. I appreciate you guys immensely. I appreciate anyone that wants to hear my voice for an hour plus twice a week. It means a lot. And again, no supporter is bigger than my YouTube supporters aren't more important than my DSP supporters and vice versa. So if you do listen on the DSPs, please subscribe. It means a lot. Also, follow the socials. Follow Instagram. Follow TikTok. I post pretty much daily there. A lot of the shorts that you see on YouTube, I have to cut them down to 1 minute. A lot of them are longer than a minute. If you want to see the complete short or complete reel, go to Instagram, go to TikTok, and follow and go see what I got going on there. Also, if you want to debate with me, if you want to go back and forth, if you want to tell me how great my opinion is, if you want to tell me how bad my opinion is, social media is probably the quickest way to do it. I will respond if it is respectful, because I don't mind going back and forth. It means that you care about whatever topics we're talking about, and also means that you listen. So I appreciate you guys. So yeah, if you please follow the socials, it means so much. Until next time, much love.